Hello, this is your psychological mentor, Park Seni. I'm not sure if you've read the book, The Success of Self-Restraint. It's a book written by Mizuno Nambo. It's not thick, so it's a light read that you can finish quickly without feeling burdened. I don't intend to go through the book's contents one by one. You can just read it yourself, so I don't think you necessarily need to buy it. It's the kind of book you could just read at the library. The books I really recommend you buy are ones you absolutely won't regret purchasing. There will be times when I review those kinds of books for you in the future. Please look forward to it. Anyway, let's think about the title, The Success Science of Self-Control, for a moment. What it's trying to say is, if you practice self-control, you'll succeed. You can probably guess without even reading it. You get the idea, right? The success science of self-control. While there are certainly areas where self-control is necessary, the purpose of this video is to help you think more deeply about the very concept of self-control itself. Self-control is necessary. The problem is eating unnecessarily here, and this book also says not to eat too much for no reason. These are things that Socrates also said in the past. So there was also talk about choosing to be a hungry deer rather than a well-fed pig. Self-control is necessary. And things like sugar, right? If you can't control your intake of those things, you could get diabetes, and it would be very bad for your health. People can't control themselves and drink alcohol, excessively become alcoholics. And these are the reasons why we need self-control. Actually, what I'm suggesting is that we think a little more deeply about this topic. Looking at my own life patterns, and it's the same for people I respect, I don't think living with self-control as the main goal was ever really the case. Even now, I'm not really someone who spends a lot. Not many people might know this, but I used to like things like cars and bikes since I was young. So I've driven a lot of nice cars, and I still have some now. When people hear that I ride bikes, a lot of them look at me with a bit of prejudice, but it's not like I started riding bikes just for the sake of it. I think it's been about 14 years since I started. And back then, I had to visit several boarding academies in a single day, even on weekends, just to give lectures. But then, when the 5-day work week was implemented, they started blocking off all the cars. Because of the 5-day work week, Gyeonggi-do basically turned into a giant parking lot full of cars. As someone who had to give lectures at several academies, I saw bikes passing by on the shoulder and thought, this is it. Other people call them motorcycles, but among us riders, we use the term bike just for reference. Watching those bikes, I realized, this is exactly what I need. So I started riding bikes, and eventually I got to try out some really nice ones. I've ridden a lot of bikes like BMWs and Ducatis, tried them all, but it all started as a means to make a living. All because I could ride on the shoulder. I wanted to buy a helicopter. My helicopters are just way too expensive. So I passed on that idea. That's how I ended up riding bikes. It wasn't that I practiced restraint or deliberately tried not to spend much. It was just that as I worked hard and got really absorbed in what I was doing, I simply didn't have time to spend money. I didn't have time to waste money, and it's not like I ever thought I should restrain myself from drinking alcohol. I had to work even harder at what I was doing, giving lectures to people, and being someone who inspires trust through education. There just wasn't any time for me to be around smelling of alcohol. So naturally, I ended up restraining myself from drinking. And honestly, when it comes to eating, if I were living a really comfortable life with plenty of free time, I would probably want to keep eating all the time. But as I focus on my work and keep working hard, I inevitably have to live a more structured life. And that leads to self-control. So from the outside, people might think that person has incredible self-discipline, almost like a robot. But you know, I'm not the robot, right? I've received a lot of compliments like that, but honestly, it's not that I'm trying to be self-disciplined. Like I said, when I just focus on doing what I need to do, working harder than anyone else, and giving it my all, everything unnecessary just naturally becomes irrelevant to me. So from the outside, people think I have a lot of self-control and that I'm making a huge effort to be disciplined, but in reality, I've never actually tried to do that. I just immerse myself more deeply in what I was doing. I don't think success comes from self-restraint. The success theory of self-restraint. Just because you practice self-restraint doesn't guarantee success. Rather than that, maybe you should want to see things through to the very end, not by holding back. At least in this field, it's okay to be greedy instead of restrained. Honestly, it's better to be greedy and really go after what you want. But the good things in life, even if you pursue them greedily or with ambition, don't have any side effects. That's what's really great about it. However, if you become greedy for the wrong things, your body and mind can get damaged. And since everything is connected, that's how a person's life can fall apart. Instead of thinking I'll succeed by restraining myself, it's better to think I'll put more energy into what's right and meaningful. Making that effort will be a faster shortcut to success. So do that, everyone. What I'm about to say is just a passing remark, really. I know there are people who became famous on YouTube through mukbangs, and I've even watched them once. There was someone who looked like a very skinny girl, but she ate an incredible amount. From what I remember in the Science of Success Through Moderation by Mizuno Naboku, it says that people like that tend to die young. And my thoughts are somewhat similar. I'm mentioning this because I agree, since we're born with a certain amount we're meant to eat. What do you think happens if we overeat, push ourselves beyond that? We'd have to die sooner. So you need to understand that eating a lot isn't necessarily a good thing. Some people want to become mukbang YouTubers just because others got famous doing eating shows on YouTube. But that's really not a good thing. So even if they became popular that way, there's no need to envy them. In a way, it's sad because they're risking their own lives and shortening their lifespan for it. Of course, I don't really watch those myself. I think I've even seen a comment once asking me to do a mukbang ASMR, but I will never do that, so please don't ask. Eat in moderation and then focus your ambitions on something more meaningful. Alright, that's it for today. If you enjoyed the video, please remember to subscribe, like, and turn on notifications. Always stay strong, everyone. See you next time.